Professor Laird here. It's Monday morning, October 12th, and I just wanted to give you a short video update here now that we are 1/3 of the way through the class. We've had our first test, and paper topics are due this week. I'd much rather, of course, be giving this material to you in person in a classroom rather than online, recording the videos. However, we do have to consider that if I was in the classroom, I'd probably look something like this, of course wearing my contacts because this fogs up my glasses otherwise, or perhaps the more generic look here, perhaps something like this. Go ahead, make my coffee. The first thing I'd like to talk about is what I refer to as the online dilemma. Now, this is what I notice quite prominently on online courses. I notice it very quickly, quite regularly, is that if you're not putting the same amount of time and the same amount of effort and the same amount of engagement in this online course as you would be in a classroom course on campus, well, you're not going to do well in this class. It's quite obvious when students are not participating, not engaging as much as they would if they were in a classroom course there. So that's extremely important. If we want to make this online learning work, you're going to have to put that priority into it just as much, or perhaps even more, because there's more burden on you to keep up, to watch the lectures, to participate in the discussion forums. We'll talk about the tests here in a minute, but I understand that everybody has other things going on and a lot of you have jobs. But we also have to consider that if we were in the classroom taking the course on campus, you would not be at your job. You'd be in the classroom. So that's obviously a priority that you would have. So if you are treating this course as kind of the last thing that you get to, you go ahead and do all of your other stuff, and then you go to your job and then come in at the end of the day and spend a few minutes logging into the website and go, whoopee, I'm in college. It's not going to work that way. I mean, it can't work that way if we want to make this online learning work for us. Otherwise, it's going to be detrimental to our educational system. So that's why it's going to be putting a little bit more of a burden on you to make this a priority, put that level of time and effort, engagement into this online course just as you would if you were going to the class on campus. Another thing I want to talk about, read the syllabus on a regular basis. You want to keep up with the schedule. You want to remind yourself of what the instructions are in the course for any particular assignment. So read this on a fairly regular basis. Paper topics are due this week, so review the instructions, the format, all the other particulars as far as that goes. Now I want to talk just a few minutes about the first test. Some of you did extremely well on the test. Some of you, it was quite clear that you were not prepared for the test before you started the test. I say that probably a dozen times. You want to be prepared for the test before you start that timed test. Now, what you could do if you did not do well on the first test, obviously you can set up a meeting with me. I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. What you might also want to do is communicate with your fellow class members, particularly those who did well on the test, because there were several students that were prepared enough to where they gave quite elaborate answers to the essay questions, had time to do that. So you might want to pick their brain and find out, how did they prepare? How are they able to get to those essay questions and give fairly elaborate answers to those within the time limit? Now, obviously, if it was me, I can also give you some other tips as far as that goes. We could talk about those on the video conference if you want to set one of those up. But one thing that I would recommend, first of all, is watch the videos first, because I got a lot of answers to the questions, the essay questions on the test, that I had no idea where they were coming from. All of those answers are out, spilled out for you there on the video. So you want to watch the video. What I would also recommend is that you take notes while you're watching the video. I would even recommend that after you take your notes, set up an outline that tells you exactly what was on that video in pretty specific detail, so you don't have to go back and look at the video. Also, what that does is that engages you in the material. You're learning the material better as you're writing it down and trying to figure out what's going on there. Because if you are sitting there looking at your text messages while the video's going, you're not going to absorb any of it. And I got a lot of answers that maybe somebody just Googled it to Wikipedia and did that. That ain't going to work. There's a reason. Let me explain this to you. There's a reason why professors give these lectures. We spend a lot of time synthesizing this material. In fact, I've got a book here that I'm reading right now to prepare for a course that I'll be teaching in the spring. And you might be able to see here is that almost every other line is highlighted. So this is what professors do. We spend the time that saves you from spending all that time. We synthesize, summarize this material, and present it to you in these digestible chunks for you to assimilate at this level of the game, and then you move on to the next level. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why we have teachers in schools and professors, because it really wouldn't even be practical or efficient for you to try to do that on your own. So take heed of that, because what we talk about on the lectures is what we want you to tell us what you've learned on the tests. So there's a reason for that. Watch the videos, take notes, take an outline, be prepared, have all that information available to you at your fingertips before you start the test. That way you will give better answers in your own words to those essay questions. So that's just one thing that I could go ahead and tell you to work on right for this particular video here, to be prepared for the test before you start it. Then if you've got any other questions, you can contact me on that. Another thing I want to talk about for just a couple of minutes here is your paper topics. They're due this week, so be sure to read the syllabus again to make sure you've got the proper format for your paper topic summary, 1/2 page in the Word file attached to the forum that I will set up for you to do that. And also the video on the paper assignment, you should have watched that already. It's got a lot of good basic general information about getting ready for writing your papers, and I'll be posting more information on that later on. Also, coming up within the next couple of weeks, I'll be posting a video on peer-reviewed academic journals. Very important, since they are kind of the heart of your analysis for your paper. So that's really all I wanted to touch on for this particular video. I'll probably give a few more as we go through the class, just to give you a little bit of more direct contact. Like I said, I'd much rather be in the classroom. I really enjoy teaching the material with all the students there. It's more fun than recording these videos, even though I might have a little bit of fun with the recording as well. But much rather be there in person. But we've got to deal with this. Let's make the best of it. So contact me by email if you have any questions. Also, if you want to set up a video conference, that could be either through WebEx or Zoom, depending on which one I would have access to best. So, feel free to do that. So until the next time, we'll see you in class.